Welcome to Cabin's Coffee Corner. This is a YouTube channel where I do different reviews and comparisons and go over tips and tricks of different type of coffee equipment. Today we have one of the biggest reviews that I've done where we're going to compare 3 different machines that value up around $700 and why you should pick one or the other. But before we dive in that, I ask you to do a few things. Go ahead and click the subscribe button and please like this video. This helps with my YouTube analytics a lot. Also, if you're looking at purchasing any of these products, please use the affiliate link below where I'll make a slight commission at no extra charge to you. You can also find all of these products in all of my videos in the description on a link directly to them. I also ask that you consider supporting me on Patreon. Patreon is a way I can help continue to create content, get information from you and feedback from you, as well as potentially do giveaways down the road. So now let's moving forward. We got 3 different machines here, and I valued all of these roughly around $700 retail price. We have the Flair espresso machine, Flair Pro 2, retailing at $309, but when you add the Stag EKG Kettle EKG Plus, that's $200 on top of the $309, so we're at $509, plus the Bellman Stovetop Steamer at I think $120 now, so that gives us $630 is the retail price for all of this. Granted, you can go cheaper on the kettle, and we'll get into that later. We got the Rancilio Sylvia, known as a great home user machine. This thing retails at $735. We have the Rancilio version 1. So this is 20 years old and it's still kicking, and it's still pretty comparable to the new ones out there. There's only some slight tweaks, so I still feel like it's very eligible to be in this video. And then we got the probably very highly known and well seen Breville Barista Express. You can find this in places like Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon, things like this. This is a very well-known entry-level machine for all stages of espresso. This thing retails at $700. $700. So we got $735 right here, $630, $40, something like that here, and then $700 here. We're gonna start over here at this guy. This is the Rancilio. This is a single boiler machine, which what that means is you can steam or you can brew. This is a great machine. This is what the portafilter looks like outside. It does have a spout on the bottom. I always call it sprout, not sure why. This is what a spout looks like. So it's got like the 2 places it drips. This is an aftermarket option that you can buy with it. The nice thing about this machine is it's virtually indestructible. Like I said, this one is 20 years old. It produces great shots of espresso. The steam one can be used as a hot wand arm, and it also produces a very good microfoam for latte art, things like that. It's a very good machine. Over here, this one's probably going to be the most different one out of all of them. This one comes with a smaller portafilter. So this is commercial size here. So 58 millimeter portafilter, which means there's a lot more opportunities for accessories, things like that with the Rancilio than any other device. This one, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe this is a 46 millimeter portafilter and brew head. And this has this thing on it that is that the Sylvia does not have. This is a pressure gauge, which is allow you to control the pressure of your shot with the lever as you're brewing. This also comes with the option of a spout. I'm going to always say sprout, so don't correct me on that. Sorry about that. But you have the option for a spout on it. So this is the only machine out of the 3 that can be bottomless, which the benefit of that is you can see your extraction here. This right next to it is the Stag EKG, known as one of the best pour-over kettles here. It's temperature controlled, and it's $200 because I have the Bluetooth version of it. You can get a kettle that's going to work perfectly fine with this Flair for $60, $60 to $100. So you can easily knock down the price of this a little bit more. It also comes in a handy traveling case, and this is probably the easiest one to lug around with you anywhere you go. I can fit this in a backpack as it is. And this is the Bellman Steamer. Didn't think that through too much. This is the Bellman steamer. This goes on the stovetop. You put water in it and it basically makes a pressurized bomb. And it's kind of sketchy a little bit and really dirty because I've had this for years. This steams the milk for your Flair, and it does a very, very great job of doing so. It makes great latte art. It takes some time to work. This machine right here, the Breville Barista Express. Now, I want to go over a few features on this one that are different than any of the other ones. You have your standard steam arm here, which is pretty nice little steam one. You also have a hot water nozzle right here. You also have the grinder, the built-in grinder right here, which is a nice little feature. A magnetic holder for your tamper. Those other machines do come with the tamper, but this one sticks right there. You got the removable drip tray, and it comes with pressurized portafilter baskets. Let me grab one here for you. Pressurized portafilter baskets. So when you look at that versus something like this, which this current one is inside the portafilter right there. This basically allows you to compensate for your grind. So you have to have a nice grinder with espresso. So the dual-walled pressurized baskets allow you to compensate for your grind, which makes it a little easier to do, but you can't see your imperfections near as well. It does have a pressure gauge right here as well. And it also has one of my favorite features right here in the drip tray. It flips open and it says empty me when it gets full. You can see the water line on the back here, and it's easy to fill from the top as well. I can't remember if I said the pressure gauge right here. This also has nice features where it says when you need to clean it, it says when you need to, or it says when you're steaming and when you're doing the hot water nozzle with the switch on the back. The cleaning feature is a nice thing to just remind you to do the normal maintenance that you need to be doing on a machine. One of the huge pluses on this is you can, well, one, it grinds straight into your portafilter right here. You just simply pick up the portafilter, drop it in there, grind, and it'll get the job done. And you also have these nice little buttons on the side. So you can click this and it will automatically stop your shot when it's done with about a double shot of espresso, versus this one you have to, the Rancilio over here, you have to manually click the button and turn it on and off whenever you're ready. All right, so I kind of went over the little bases here. We have a really tiny drip tray on the Sylvia versus on the Breville. You have quite a bit bigger of a drip tray. This one's almost unusable on the Sylvia because of how small it is. This one on the Flair, you don't really even need a drip tray for the Flair, to be honest. It catches a little bit of dribbles here and there, but these you actually need drip trays on. The Flair, not so much. So the cool thing about these machines is over the past month, I've used almost all of them on a regular basis. I got the Flair and the Sylvia at my home in the kitchen that I pull a shot with in the morning, pull one over lunch on a different machine to test them out and to get a really, really good opinion on it. And I got the Breville over here that is the espresso machine that I have in the office. So this is in our office kitchen, and we share this, and I've trained people on how to use this. I went by and did side-by-side comparisons of all of these on shots of espresso. The main thing, so I could answer the question, was which one tastes the better? Which one should you buy? All of these. So I'm going to go, before I get into the actual taste of them, which is coming up here. I did test that. We're going to go over which one is for who and why you should buy one. So I mentioned this one is my home. This is the one that I have at home currently along with my Flair. I love this machine. It does a great job of pulling a quality shot, and it does a great job of steaming for microfoam. However, because this is a single boiler machine and there's not this thing called a PID, which basically allows you to see the temperature of the machine on it, which you can add for like another $250, you have to do this thing called temperature surfing, which means you have to basically look at the light on here, turn on switches at a certain time, count, so you can guess the temperature of the boiler on the inside, so you can guess when it's coming out. Because your shots are going to be quite a bit different when you're pulling a shot at 195 versus 212 versus 202. So the not knowing of your temperature is kind of a tough thing on this and makes it a little finicky on it, but it does do a great job. It does do a great job of steaming milk and of pulling shots. I love how this is a commercial size. I forgot to mention that the Breville is a 54 milliliter 54 milliliter portafilter, which makes it slightly smaller than commercial size, which is a frustrating thing. But this makes it nicer for knocking out the grounds and the puck as soon as you're done with it. It flows very well. The drip tray sucks on it, as I mentioned, but this machine is going to last you a while. This machine is very, very easy to use. And if you're willing to put forth the time in it. All espresso is a finicky thing, and if you don't put forth the time, you're not going to get good results. But this one is great for producing drinkable shots of espresso on their own and the milk drink as well. It's not the greatest thing for doing both all the time because it is a single boiler machine, and once you pull your shot of espresso, you have to wait for your machine to heat up enough to pull out the steam. They've made some great upgrades on it over time. They've upped the steam wand arm, they upped all the control panels on here, added a better drip tray, insulated the boiler, many things like that. But for 20 years, this is going strong, and that's a huge return on investment. When you're paying $735, but you're getting 20 years out of the thing, potentially, or you could easily, safely say, get a decade out of it. 20 years is a long time, but if you take care of it, it will go a long ways. We got the Flair here, which, man, I love this thing. This is my first espresso machine, my first real espresso machine that I really used was the Flair espresso machine because it came in at a great price point. The huge thing about this is you have control over everything on it. You have control over the amount of water that comes through. You have control over the basket, which you can put, I think, like 15 to 24 grams of coffee in there. You have control over the pressure and pre-infusion. Pre-infusion is basically when the machine puts a little bit of pressure on your coffee beans and the puck that's inside of the portafilter. It puts a little bit of pressure on there for the amount of time that you want it to, and then it will ramp up to the 6 to 9 bars of espresso that you're aiming for. But I can pull a shot and pre-infuse for 30 seconds at 2 bars, or 10 seconds at 1 bar, or 10 seconds at 3 bars, and then ramp up to 9 bars for the rest of the time, or 6 bars for the rest of the time, or I can ramp up to 9 bars and slowly ramp down. Basically what I'm saying, the possibilities with this are endless on the opportunities you do. The Bellman steamer I like a lot. It steams great. It steams quickly. It's a learning curve. The Flair is the biggest learning curve out of all these machines, and the Bellman is a huge learning curve as well on steaming, but it does it. As long as you get a kettle that has the temperature control on it, so set it at 212, preheat this. It's definitely more finicky on getting in prep work, and it's a lot more complicated. You can't just flip on a machine and wait for it to heat up. You have to preheat the cylinder to get it as hot as possible. You have all these little parts and pieces. The huge pro is this one is the only one that you don't have to descale and regularly maintain clean-wise. You just simply have to rinse out the portafilter, which you have to do in every machine that you have. But it's a great machine, and it does the job that I want. This guy, there's a reason why I don't personally have this machine at home. This was one of the ones that I was looking at buying before the Flair. This was on my list. It was a lot more money than I wanted to spend, and a lot more than the Flair was at the time. And this is I would call this machine a great machine for somebody who's drinking lattes specifically. I cannot get the best quality espresso out of it. I can get somewhat drinkable shots, but nothing compared to the Flair and the Rancilio out of it. The steam wand takes forever, which is great for a beginner, as it allows you to really work with the milk and really practice with it and really get the best results as possible. The nice thing and the reason why you should buy this is an all-inclusive machine. You got everything you need here. So when I'm in the office and this is in the kitchen for all the staff to use, I can train them and teach them easily how to use this, and everybody can get stuff that they're amazed with and happy with, because they'll do their iced mochas and their iced lattes and their iced vanilla lattes and all this fun stuff. And it was a very easy machine to use for everybody. And it was nice, and it works well to have coffee in the office. This does have a pressure gauge, which is a nice added feature in there, and it automatically does a little pre-infusion, but you don't have any control over this, and you don't have any control over the temperature of the machine. And the biggest thing about this machine is a machine that is like, this is just not the best build quality of a machine. This is a machine that's meant to be used for a few years or so. I don't know how many. I think this is on year 2 or 3 of regularly using this machine. So it's still going, it's still kicking. But this machine isn't meant to be fixed. This machine isn't meant to be repaired. This machine is basically use it craps out, and you're done. The Rancilio on the other end, this machine is literally meant to be taken apart with a Phillips screwdriver and replace anything that's on the inside of it and make it last for a decade or 2 decades. So you have a substantial different build quality on both of these. Now here's the huge kicker on all of these machines. Is one of the things I hear a lot about the Flair, and the reason why I wanted to get a machine like the Sylvia is because that Bellman took forever to heat up on the stove. It took forever to heat up on the stove to produce the milk that you need for latte art, and I wanted something quicker. The catch here is both of these machines here, the Sylvia and the Breville, have this almost false on button. So basically, you click the power button on all of these, and the light will shut off when it's heated up. The light will be fully illuminated when it's heated up and ready to go, and that'll happen in a minute or 2. To be, in all honest, the best results that are going to come out of any machine here is if you take the portafilter, you lock it in the portafilter holder, the brew head, I guess. I don't know what you call that thing. You lock it in there. You flip on the machine, and the best to do is wait about 30 minutes or so for this machine to fully heat up. The reason for that is you need to get all the metal and all these parts as hot as possible, because if you just turned it on, waited for the 30 seconds or so, flipped it on, pulled your shot, what's going to happen is water is going to go through the machine, out this group head is what this is called, and it's going to touch this cold metal of the group head and the cold metal of the portafilter, and the shot temperature is drastically going to drop the moment you pull a shot of espresso with it. So you need to preheat. So I'm going to rule out one of the huge factors of the convenience of quickness. The Flair, I don't really think loses in that much of a comparison to either one of these because it's all manual. It goes almost as quick. This thing steams like twice as fast as this. This thing and the Bellman steam about the same rate and steam better than this one. You can all produce microfoam and latte art. This one's going to be the easiest. This one's going to be the most likely closest to commercial grade quality stuff. This is meant to be fixed. The Bellman's meant to be fixed. The Flair is meant to not be broken. And even then, all these little parts can be fixed. So here's why I think all these machines are great, and here's what I think they are for. This one is great for somebody who wants an espresso machine but isn't wanting to put forth the time and the effort and the work to produce the best quality of shots. These are the people that are going to drink the lattes and the mochas and the things like that, and they're going to add some sweetener in it, that aren't really going to notice the difference in a taste quality shot from espresso to espresso, who probably won't even drink espresso on their own. This machine excels at this. This machine, the Sylvia, the beloved Sylvia, this machine is for somebody who wants an all-inclusive package with the steam wand and the portafilter, wants a commercial size machine, wants a machine that has a boiler in it, wants to be able to produce good shots, have some control, maybe somebody who wants to get into reconstructing the machine and adding that PID, that pressure or the temperature control in there, maybe adding a pressure gauge on there to see the pressure on the machine and dink around with that, who's okay with the learning curve of the Sylvia, who wants to drink a straight shot of espresso often. This is the machine that you should get. This is gonna better outperform the Breville. The shot comparison on them, don't even compare. This Sylvia is just so much better. I will regularly drink shots out of the Sylvia. It's gonna be hard for me to get a shot out of the Breville. And by shot, I am comparing all of these shots of espresso dialed in. And dialed in basically means I'm aiming for a certain result in a certain time frame. Meaning I put 18 grams of coffee in, I aim for 36 grams out, I aim for roughly 30 seconds on each of the machine. The Flair is slightly different on there. And I use the exact same grinder, which is a Kinu M37 Classic hand grinder, which is a $350 hand grinder, so it's more than equivalent for grinding for any of the machines. I did this because I didn't want to factor in Breville's grinder built into it, because it's not the greatest grinder. It will do the job and it will work for the Breville, but you will often see people over time upgrading the grinder and having an additional grinder sitting next to it that is quite a bit more expensive and will produce better results. So out of those three, the Sylvia hands down beat the Breville. It was drinkable somewhat on the Breville, but not even a close comparison on the Sylvia. So this is the great one for the lattes. This is the latte one. It's a good deal. It comes all inclusive. It's nice sitting on your countertop. It fits in well with things. You can get it in black. You can get it in stainless steel. And you can get it in, I think, a white and red now. There's a lot of color options. This you can get, I think, in black. And I think they're getting custom options for the Rancilio Pro, which has the a dual boiler so you can steam and brew at the same time, and the temperature control on this. Now we're going to get into the big comparison, which is the toughest comparison that I'm going to make on these. This is probably, but like I said, the Breville is probably the lowest quality of it, but the most convenient and most easiest to use out of all of these things. So if you don't want a learning curve and you just want to get going, Breville's for you. Now the Sylvia versus the Flair. The Sylvia versus the Flair. The Flair does get pretty expensive because you do got to buy these accessories. The Sylvia is the machine that I've wanted for a long time, that I recently picked up here. The Flair has all of the control that you possibly want. That you can control the pressure, that you can profile your pressure shots. You have the option to have a sprouted one. It folds up and I can travel with this darn thing. It's phenomenal. Flair doesn't pay me to say this. I just really like my Flair. It's phenomenal. The kettle gives you the option to do more with your espresso setup. You can heat and brew pour over coffee. The Bellman is a nice little travel camping thing and produces great microfoam. It's a little finicky in a learning curve, but you can do it. Let's go with the shots. Let's compare the shots real quick. The shot on the Rancilio Sylvia is going to come out hotter. It's going to come out hotter because you have a boiler and there's less chance of temperature dropping in the maneuver. For the Flair, what I do to preheat is, one, you must always put hot water in your cups. If you don't put hot water in your cups, you're doing it wrong. You should be doing that for any espresso machine that you have, because when hot liquid touches a cold room temperature cup, and I'm not just talking about using the cup warmers that are on the top of an espresso machine, I'm talking about just put a little bit of hot water in there. Run some hot water through the group head of this, because you should be flushing the group head anyway. Put it in your cup, pour some water out of the kettle, use the group head or the hot water tap on this. So the Flair has a little cap that goes on the bottom of it for you to preheat the metal, and you put water in it and you have to fill it a few times. The better way to do it, and this will work on the Stag EKG as well as the Bonavita temperature control kettle, which is my other kettle that I have, is if you take this and you put it on top of it, you can line it up over the steam hole vents, and you put the little preheat cap on top of the machine, and you can see this. This is a custom add-on from Flair where you can basically add this temperature strip on here so you can see how hot your machine is. And I can fill it in without filling it with water, by just putting it on the kettle. I can get it easily to 203 pretty darn quickly on there, which is going to get this brew head pretty hot. I haven't preheated this much. I should, because I preheat the portafilter on this by simply just locking in there, and then when you touch the portafilter you can feel it being hot. But every single time when I pulled a shot here, it's been hotter. That doesn't mean that the Flair is cold. It just means this one's hotter. It was noticeably different after the shot sits for like a minute or two. You're going to get a little bit warmer of a cup and a warmer of a shot than this. Just something to think about. It kind of depends on how quickly you drink your shot of espresso. Shot quality and taste. The shot quality and the taste is very close. Very close. Again, using a Kinu M47 hand grinder. So same hand grinder. Dialed in specifically for the machine. I spent some time doing that. Went through some beans. Did all that fun stuff. It was close, but I'm going to give it to... Oh, by the way, I'm using the same baskets. This is a VST basket, which is an add-on. And this is also made by VST. So even the baskets are the same on this. The dimension side is different. The machine I'm going to give it to for the best quality shot, I'm going to give it to the Flair. And there's a reason why on that. Is because of the control you have. I can control the temperature of the portafilter and the brew head and the water coming through. It's not as easy to do because of temperature loss, things like that. I can control the pressure. The reason why I'm giving it to the Flair is because I have all this control over the pressure. That I can slowly ramp in. I can do a long pre-infusion. I can do a short pre-infusion. I have endless opportunities of controlling the pressure and changing the shot flavor as a result of that. Versus a Sylvia, I don't have that opportunity. I think the shot quality could take over the Flair if I put the PID and I could control the temperature of this, but it's hard to know when you're brewing. I love this thing. So here's the weird thing out of everything. The time to use either one of these machines isn't drastically different. The time between this and this, using the steamer on here, is about the same. I'm assuming the time between this is the same. I actually did time these in a video, go back to back on them, and they basically got the same time. This is, I'm assuming, right next to it. For some reason though, I don't know what the reason is for this, because like I said, I'm getting better quality of shots with this. For some reason, in the morning when I make a shot of espresso, I flip on this switch. When I have both of these sitting next to each other, I flip on this switch. And I think one of the huge reasons for that is simply because of you can be more lazy with this machine. You can be more lazy with this machine. And what I mean by that is you can put your scale under there and flip your cup on to put water through the brew head, and then you just shut it off. That's it. Versus this machine, I have to sit here, take this lever, and hold for 20 seconds for my pre-infusion, and then slowly ramp down and put pressure down on the entire machine and brew that way. It's not a lot of hard work. It's pretty easy. And it's worth it. It's worth putting the time into this. I've been using the Flair for 3 years now on a daily basis. The moment I got this, I don't know if I'm doing this because I like the commercial sized portafilter. I like my commercial sized tamper. I got a really nice tamper for this thing. I like the simple just method of locking it into the group head versus sitting on the group head or sitting on this base here. There's a lot of things that I like that this feels like a machine. This feels like you're doing something that you would do in a cafe versus this is just so different. Outside of the steaming of the milk almost feels the same. But this one gets better shots. But like I said, the shots out of the Sylvia aren't bad. They're pretty darn comparable back to back. So, and honestly, it depends on what you're going to do with the machine. I don't think the amount of milk drinks you make should compare on whether you get the Flair or the Sylvia. I think it matters how much you want to tinker with espresso. This is going to allow you to tinker more and allow you to do the pressure profiling things. It's going to also give you a kettle. This is also going to get you a place where you can travel and work well with this. There's a reason why the Sylvia has been around for 20 years and they still make it and people still buy it. It's because it's great. The Flair is going to be around for years too because it's great. But if you're traveling, if you want something smaller, if you want something portable, man, get the Flair. If you want something that feels like a machine, that gives you the essence of almost being a cafe and having this in there and being able to tilt your head down there and look at the beautiful flow coming out of a bottomless portafilter. Remember, this is going to include another 60, 70, 80 bucks to buy this bottomless portafilter. It doesn't come with it versus the Flair comes with it. It's a tough call. Do you have any of these machines? You watching this? Which one would you buy? What questions do you have that I don't answer? All of these are great. All of these have their purpose. I don't think any of these are a dumb purchase to buy. I wouldn't be like, don't buy any of them. But they all have a great purpose. They all are great machines, and I'm grateful to have owned and reviewed all of these and used them all on a regular basis in different areas of my life. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out, comment below. Remember to subscribe, like this video, and consider supporting me on Patreon while I'll be doing various giveaways later down the road. Thanks for watching.